am Lord Republicus, your new sovereign. And you are about to get probed! Don't look at the Emperor's tits. Probed! Ah! Delete that part from me coughing. Yes. The Emperor shall not be shown coughing, just maniacally laughing. Ah! Ding, ding, ding. Ha ha ha! Want to know something good, folks? There's a reason. Hey, that's neat. Whoa! I don't think I got my count on right. Hee-hoo! Damn, I'm too drunk for this. Damn, sit the hall friggin' longer than nail. There's a reason. A reason! Yes, there is. There's a reason that aliens will not invade. Well, actually, only two reasons. And that would be, we have a very rare planet. In other words, whatever conditions are on Earth to make it habitable, and for the aliens to be habitable, that would be the reasons they want to come. And they would need to not freaking wreck the civilization before they destroyed all the nukes. And the major weapons of conventional war. Because if their goal was to come here, it would not be to destroy the environment. So that means that we would have to wipe out humanity. I mean, they would have to wipe out humanity. You know, I'm not one of the lizard folk. No, I'm not, you know. Yeah, give me a phaser. And this is very important to understand, because you have to understand that any civilization that has developed wormhole technology, or more likely near relatively probed, you foul humans. Yes. Is that they must have a reason to expend their resources to come here. And the only reason would be cultural or environmental. Why? Because any civilization, oh, that's cool, yeah, that can go into space, have a habitable person and travel interstellar distances will have a society that is pretty much post-scarcity. That means they will have a society without the lack of resources. Unless they are a space-bearing race that just wants a little green grass. And it might be possible if they're at that level to terraform. You see, because you have to consider all the costs of energy, the resources to travel interstellar distance. And anyone who could do it can pretty much manage their own world. It might be so far said, what the hell was I saying? Oh yeah, it might even go so far as to say anybody who could travel interstellar distance can handle even a sun becoming unstable in their own world. Not with force fields or anything else, but because they have access to space, they could possibly even protect their own homeworld. Maybe not. You're still in the eye of a storm. And any habitable planet that a being is going to be able to evolve on is going to be similar to our gravity if they're anything humanoid. And I doubt, sincerely, any aspect of non-humanoid life that wasn't designed. So, what you have there is a race that, unlike our race, would probably have overcome its first steps into space. And that's not to be understated, because you have to understand that we got over our Cold War period because we are in the same boat. But what if we had cold fusion now, or even some way to create an atomic fuel, or somehow create a way to hold energy in a tight space? That would give us the ability to create crafts and vehicles that could easily ascend and descend out of our gravity well. Or conventionally, if we did everyday things and devoted a large amount of our global resource infrastructure to developing an infrastructure in space that could tap the energy of the sun and the resources of free-floating objects in space, like our Oort clouds, asteroid belts, that are much easier to mine than things on the moon, although the distance is much further. You see, if we could build a sustainable resource in space where we can combine materials with energy, we can create habitats and therefore sustainable space living. Once you do that, you have the beginnings of the colonization of the solar system. And once you've done that, you create an independence from Earth, and therefore you create a situation that is probably not survivable by the human species. Although I hate to be a fatalist, more or less, our reason for not obliterating ourselves that has yet to not been done and is a constant risk still from nuclear weapons is the fact that we live together. And that's the only thing. Pretty soon, colonies would grow disproportionately oppressed or united, and any way about it, there would probably be a schism between Earth and people that could not be supported to live on Earth because of population densities and other things. And a general envy would ensue, and there would be nothing to stop, well, colony wars. You know, it wouldn't be a Cold War. There would be no reason for it to have to be. It might start out as a Cold War, or political tensions turning into a Cold War, turning into a hot war that turns into a apocalyptic event because of environmental or even societal collapse of an infrastructure or a social system that was based off of a central Earth core. You see, people think that meteor strikes or something else has to be this world or environmental destroying event. And it doesn't. All it has to do is collapse society to the point where social tensions run so high that society self-destructs, and unlike the Soviet Union when it fell, there won't be a bridge back of the United States carrying the rest of the world into international stability. It won't be there. Okay? And that means that there will be a socioeconomic implosion. And with nuclear weapons, or worse, if fusion or nuclear isometric warfare is discovered, which is scalable and fusionable, that means that there will be no distinction between a ship's battery, a overpowered phaser, or something that looks like a freighter but is a planet destroyer. Now, these aliens would have had to get past this aspect of their culture. And they would have to be the type of species that would originally have ever evolved to become a technological civilization. So it could have been much longer for them and sustainable. We might get there. We might be that type of species, but we probably aren't. And all species probably come to a tipping point where the innovations of the society either erode, atrophy, which is very unlikely, or implode. And it just, society just friggin' culture and a species just probes itself. I know that's similar to some people who said, oh, we should push the big red button. But the big red button is thermodynamics and entropy. And that happens even in systems of resources, not just energy, not just land, not just, there was a few others, I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but in information. Oh, labor. Labor was one of the others. if there's a lack of labor, and that could be a problem. But most likely, that will not be a problem. It will be space, lack of space, infinite space, and energy won't be a problem, but information and the ability to contain the energy of that information will reach a tipping point, a trigger effect. It's very important to understand this. So that's why I made an earlier rant about Battle LA and other things like that. Or if you want to throw science fiction terms, how does the United Federations of Planets actually have world unity and peace? Well, of course, they have things like warp drives, force fields, tricorders, transporters, did I say transporters? And disintegrators, or phasers. You're nothing but a friggin' Varion field. Now, without these things, if you're limited to, let's say, some non-hand wavium, that's something interesting to look up, by the way. If you're limited to relativistic travel, no structural integrity fields, but the structural integrity of materials you can process, energy stores you can use, and near relativistic, travel, and various sensors that do not rely on faster than light information, what you're going to encounter is some of the scenarios I've just described. And that's the problem with Battle LA, with anything I've just mentioned. So, next time you look at Babylon 5, Star Trek, World of Worlds, V, you gotta ask yourself, why? Why? I could poke so many potholes in V. They wouldn't have to do any of that stuff. All they would have to do is just keep the high ground and wait 20 to 50 years, a generation or two, for the planet to just bow down to them. And that's my point about Babylon 5, is that Got That Funk said, well, I like Babylon 5, but what about if religion met another religion, and how would that alien encounter go? Well, I looked it up, and the alien encounter was very much an Earth that was pretty much just like the Star Trek equivalent after the Eugenics War, a World War III. And yet, for some reason, they got a pass. They got told that, oh, we're your long-lost brothers. But all of a sudden, the Centauri, that normally were like Feringi raiders or Age of Imperialism, Steel and Sail, gave them a non-aggression pact and a free reign to actually build an empire. Kind of like what the Balkans let the humans do. In considering Star Trek Enterprise, that scenario and with the other scenarios involved, presented in that series, it's highly unlikely the Vulcans would have allowed the humans to do that. Especially with the encounters they had had with the Klingons, the Romulans, and the Andorians that they were having problems with at the time. So you see, science fiction is a metaphor for human problems, but it hasn't gained the ground of understanding that human problems would be changed by the scenario. In just the same way that we're not having the same problems as the Victorian era or the Revolutionary War, and why some of our constitutional issues are being very stressed in a different technological society. That also applies. Okay? Okay. I've been talking too goddamn long. Lost your fucking interest! Hey! Hey! Okay, soak that up. Oh, and that's also about oil, dilithium, frigging Transformers Synergon cubes, or any other crazy thing. Hoo-hoo! Including information like this. Wow!